Hi, welcome. This is Marty Murphy. And the title of today's newsletter is How Knowing What You Don't Want Can Actually Help You. And I've been doing this practice. It actually came from the law of attraction of getting clear on what you don't want and then figuring out what you do want from that place. And I talked about this on one of my radio shows recently, but I want to share this with you guys here. And there's a sheet attached to this newsletter that you can print out, and it's really like about getting clarity. And the idea is that you first write out what you don't want, and that would be in the left-hand column, and just think about like brain dumping. Just write everything that you don't want and just stick on that side of it and just let it free flow. I don't want this. And you could also pick a topic, like a subject, like in my money, in my weight, in my health, in my career, in my relationship. And you could do one of these sheets for each of those arenas or anything you think of. I cannot tell you how helpful it's been to me personally and to clients to be able to do this. There's something about writing out what you don't want that really sort of helps you let it go. And you actually start to own it and go, wow, I am really clear on what I don't want. And I've had people in my life say, well, you really seem to be clear on what you don't want. And I would judge the hell out of myself for that. Instead of knowing, wow, by knowing what I don't want and being clear on what I don't want, I can actually discover what I do want. And that's why I say go ahead and write out everything that you don't want and make it a subject, a topic, or just do one in general for in your life and see what comes to you. And you want to do that first. And then what I like to do is use that as my roadmap on what to tap on. Like, I don't want to be obnoxious with people. Something like that. Well, what do I want to be? I want to step in my power and stand in my power and deliver my message in a really empowered way. And I'll speak to this for myself. I was one of those early in life that, I always had a voice, and I often ended up down in the principal's office, not because I was a bad kid, but because I thought for myself. I had opinions. And that wasn't really promoted where I went to school. So I would end up down there. And what I noticed is my frustration over not being able to speak my truth elevated. And I became a bit more unruly, even though I was still a really good kid. And I tried so hard to be the good girl. So I had this really sort of oxymoronic place where I was terrified of getting in trouble. And yet there were times I felt like, well, I have to speak my mind, or I would speak my truth thinking it was okay, and I'd end up in the principal's office, or I would end up getting punished because it just flew out of me thinking, well, I'm just speaking the truth. And that's a great quality, to know your mind, to know yourself. And I believe we're all born with that in us, and we're aware of, hey, I have my own opinions and my thoughts, but what happens over time is that just gets dragged out of us. It gets suppressed in us. It gets pushed back in us. And we start to go, well, it's not okay to speak my truth. I'm going to get in trouble. So then we start suppressing ourselves. And that's when acting out can come into play. And I always say there is nothing wrong with any single emotion you have. Even if you feel like you hate someone, or you're super jealous of someone, or you just are so pissed at someone. But the problem is we judge ourselves for that. We make ourselves wrong for having those feelings. Now, here's the difference. If you actually admitted that you felt like you hate someone and you went out and you did something obnoxious or an unkind act to them, that would be different. You need to deal with the consequences of the actions that you take based on a feeling that you have. But if you allow yourself to feel fully in the safety of your own home or in the safety with a practitioner that can help you through that, it's amazing how it transforms you, and you allow yourself to feel fully. So I was judging myself so harshly for being so clear on what I didn't want, and yet I didn't realize, wow, that's a stepping stone to get very clear on what I do want. So here's how you could work that sheet. Again, just brain dump on what you don't want. And you can use that to tap on any feelings, like use each statement of what you don't want and say it out loud and check in with yourself. Like, what's the emotion that comes up for me about this? And then you can use that to tap on that emotion. I feel sad. I feel angry that I don't want this and yet it's still in my life. And then after you sort of lower the charge around those, then go to the do want side. And if you don't know, if you feel confused, if you've been anything like me, I lived my life for decades feeling pretty confused about stuff, then literally write the opposite. So like I said, well, I don't want to be obnoxious. I don't want to actually feel like in order to be in my power, I have to be a bitch. Because that was a belief that I had, that if I stood up for myself somehow, I had to be very bitchy about it. I still do that. And I had to learn, and am still learning. I'm moving into this more empowered version of myself. So what would I look like if I was empowered? So then I would write, well, I don't want to have to be obnoxious or be a bitch to speak my truth. I want to speak my truth in empowerment. And I want to feel strong in myself and actually be kind about it, but very clear and very definitive. Big difference. And then you can notice, how big does the gap feel between what you don't want and what you do want? So another step you could take to say, it feels, how possible does it feel that you can go from this place that you're at that you don't want to getting to this place that you do want? And rate that 0 to 10, like it's impossible. Or you could say it's possible. Either way, but you want to rate how possible, 0 to 10 does it feel, or how impossible, or try it both ways. Because that can be really telling too. You can kind of see a conflict that you might have. If say your numbers, well, it feels 5, it's a 5 on a 0 to 10 scale that it's possible, but it's also a 5 that it's impossible. Then you can go, oh, I want to tap on that conflict. And this is where I love argue tapping. So right now we're going to do a tapping sequence together, but I just want you to call to mind for yourself something like, think about something that you don't want. Maybe it's a behavior you have, something that's happening. Maybe it's something around your health. Maybe you don't want the extra 20 pounds you have. You don't want to feel stressed about your money. You don't want to have fights with your spouse or your children. Think about what you don't want. And now think about, what would you want instead? Well, I want peace. I want harmony. I want to be at my ideal weight. I want to feel freedom about money. And now tune into that. Here's what you don't want that you're seeing in your life. Here's what you do want. And rate this. How possible does it feel that you can get to hear what you don't want? 0 to 10. 10 is totally true. 0 is not true at all. And now if you need to reverse it, say, it's impossible. So how impossible does it feel to get from here to what you don't want to what you do want? And just keep track of those numbers. And now we're going to tap together. And I'm just going to start on the eyebrows. So start on the eyebrow and tap through the points. It's impossible. It feels so impossible to me right now. I'm pretty clear on what I don't want. And I'm getting clearer about what I do want. But the challenge for me is it doesn't feel possible. It's impossible. But what if it's not? Oh, it's impossible. But what if it's not? The belief that it's impossible is just that. A belief. What if I can change this belief? That's impossible. What if it's not? It's impossible. What if it's not? It's totally impossible. I've tried and failed before. So what? What if my past doesn't equal my present? And my past doesn't have to equal my future? What if it's possible anyway? No, it's not. What if it is? It's not possible. What if it is possible? It's not possible. It is possible. It's not possible. I like the idea that it could be possible. It's not possible. But I like the idea that it could be possible. And what if I don't have to believe it's possible yet, but I can move myself in the direction of believing it's possible? I might be able to do that. If I think I have to believe it's possible right now, that's probably too big of a leap for me. But what if, by continuing to tap on this, what I do want starts to feel more possible to me? It might kind of, sort of, maybe even feel a little more possible right now. And what if that's all I have to do? Is move myself in the direction of what I want. And I can shift my beliefs from impossible to possible slowly over time. And tapping can really help that happen. It's impossible. What if it's not? It's impossible. What if it's not? It's impossible. I don't know, maybe not. That feels a little more possible right now. Or maybe just less impossible right now. I could keep tapping on this and see what happens. And feel the shifts over time. I like that idea very much now. And then take a breath. And now go back and re-rate yourself. How impossible or how possible does it feel? And if you've moved even a hair in the direction that you desire, that's great. If it's spiked, just go back and re-tap on this as many times as you can. Argue tapping is huge for this. And using those what if statements and, oh, I like the idea. It's a way to ease your mind to a better feeling place over time. But if you think you've got to go from, oh, it's impossible to possible, it's too big of a leap. But if you think, well, I could move myself in the direction that feels more possible, doesn't that feel like a little more doable? So try that and try that exercise. Don't want, do want. And then if you need to go back, use this video and tap through that sequence as many times as you need to until you start to notice it just feels ever so slightly more possible to me. So that's it. Print that sheet out. I use this sheet so much right now in my own life, and I cannot tell you how much it helps me. And then I tap on it in just that way. So that's it for now. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.